By the end of this video, it's going to be completely apparent that you are not allowed to freely explore Antarctica, and Antarctica is not a continent on the bottom side of an oblate spheroid shaped like a brain. This is what we're told Antarctica is, but Antarctica is actually an ice wall that encompasses us and contains all of the quadrillions of gallons of water in the oceans. Because water needs a container, bro. You can't just have magical bendy water on a ball and not have it fall off the bottom. And for all you people that are about to comment gravity, go check out my video where I debunk gravity with science. But due to the Antarctic Treaty, we are not allowed to freely explore past the 60th south latitude, this black line that surrounds us, and it actually requires a permit. You have to get approval by the government, or as you can see in the red, that will be your penalty. Here are some of the requirements for Antarctic travel. We claim you have to have the permit so that you don't damage the ecosystem of Antarctica while we simultaneously burn thousands of acres of the Amazon rainforest every single day. But you're gonna need to read this page, so pause, and then read this page, pause. As you can see here, you need to file the advanced notification form, here's the technical term for the form, and give them 3 months notice and tell them exactly where you're going, what you plan on taking, or you will be denied. And if they assume that you're trying to escape, they probably will just deny you outright. Here is the advanced notification form if you want to read it over. So for all the people that have told true earthers that they can just go to Antarctica, whoop-de-doo, just fly on down there, that is illegal. It requires a permit. Stop lying. For the remainder of the video, I'm going to prove that Antarctica is not a continent on the bottom side of a ball. It is actually a wall, again, that contains all of the oceans because water necessitates a container or it will run. There's a phenomena called wraparounds when dealing with tsunamis. In the context of a tsunami, a wraparound refers to the situation where a tsunami wave, instead of being dissipated after hitting a coastline or a landmass, continues to travel around the coast and comes back and hit the same area again from a different direction. So this is what we would expect, right? It's a pretty small continent on the bottom side of a ball. You would think if the actual tsunami wave propagation were wider than the shoreline of Antarctica, we would have it wrap around and touch the other side like I just explained. That never happens. Not once in history has that ever happened. Actually, the waves are propagated out to the wall and they're contained by the wall and shot right back, proving that it's not a continent. Antarctica is also admitted to be at an average elevation of 7,545 feet, acting as a shoreline to all of the ocean. Hey, friendly reminder, NASA is trying to tell children and everyone that lives in this realm that we are on a spinning magical water ball chasing the sun at over 651 times the speed of sound, traveling over 4.4 billion miles every single year since the beginning of time, supposedly. But all of the stars have realigned in the exact same spot every 365 days for centuries. Make sense of that. So coincidentally, the first televised image from space was done on April Fools? What is going on here, NASA? Is NASA just laughing at everybody? Oh yeah, yikes. This is the kind of stuff that just makes it so obvious that these people are just laughing at you for believing their pseudoscience. Uranus smells like farts, say astronomers. They have literally convinced people they can figure out what atmospheres smell like from millions of miles away. That's how indoctrinated all of society is. Sunsets are often said to be exclusive to the Earth being a ball. Well, today I'm going to expose that this is just as explainable on a ball as it is on a level topographical plane. We have people with the names that rhyme with Shloby McShlobface going around on TikTok saying that when we see the sun setting from the southern hemiplane versus the northern hemiplane versus the equator, we see it do different arcs in the sky, and that's completely exclusive to a ball. No, this is easily explained by the hemisphere that we see in, the dome-like structure that we see in. So if the sun is over here, it's going to go like this direction. If the sun is more south or north of you, it's going to go like that in that direction. And if it's over top of you, it's going to go in a straight line over your head. Easily explained. Next thing we've got to understand about reality is perspective to understand sunsets. The sky ramps down and the ground ramps up, creating a limited perspective, also creating a converging point, or more well known as a vanishing point. So as the sun gets too far away, it lowers enough in the sky to go past this vanishing point. If you took any art classes in school, or learned how to draw how our eyes see, you would know. This is just simple point perspective. Just to further elaborate on this, this is essentially how our eyes see, like this. So when the sun is on the left of you or on the right of you, that's why you get the arc going left or right down, and then if it's over top of you, again, you'll get it going straight. Let's just make this so obvious that nobody can deny it. Let's just finish the rest of the video. If I have to re-explain this 3 more times in the video, I will. As the sun goes further away, this is at 12 o'clock noon, it's at 90 degrees, it's at its zenith point. As it goes further away, it lowers due to perspective, and the ground ramps up due to perspective, again creating a vanishing point, vanishing the sun once it gets too far. This is just simple convergence. So this bridge is at the same height going away from the observer from the terrestrial perspective that they have. Is the bridge actually getting lower towards the ground? No, this is due to perspective. The sun does a similar thing. It stays at relatively the same height as it moves away from us, but as it gets further away, it converges with the vanishing point. Did you know that the sun and the moon are essentially the same size in the sky? You have to believe that the sun is 400 times farther and 400 times larger just magically from the expansion of the Big Bang. Also, there's attenuation to light over distance. The sun acts similar to this light bulb on this wall. That's why you don't see the sun all day or see the sun's light all day. Have you ever heard a heliosexual say, "Man, we've known the Earth is a sphere since the 1500s. Didn't you know Copernicus proved it?" Well, the quote that's sitting right behind me was made by my girlfriend, and we found pretty recently that it kind of contradicts that statement in and of itself. Let's read it together. The Pythagorean teaching of heliocentrism was founded upon hypothesis, and it is not necessary that the hypothesis should be true or even probable. The hypothesis of the movement of the Earth is only one which is useful to explain certain phenomena, but it should not be considered an absolute truth. Nicholas Copernicus, 1543. I mean, coming from the father of heliocentrism himself, pretty odd. In a hypothetical situation where somebody that thinks the Earth is a ball sues somebody that thinks the Earth is a level topographical plane in court, don't you think if we were actually on a ball that spins, is on a tilt, orbits the sun, and chases the sun through space, don't you think it would be pretty easy to win that court case? Well, guess what? I tricked you. It wasn't a hypothetical situation. This actually happened in a Georgia court. Zen Garcia, a Christian flat earther, not only won once, but twice in court with a glober that was trying to prove that the Earth has curvature or that it spins over 50 miles an hour. Here are some of the details of the court case. Thompson countersued Garcia for $15,000 and not lost once but twice again. Reason the judgment was not ruled in Thompson's favor is because he tried to prove the Earth's curvature by using a computer software that he designed, and Garcia rejected it because the contest agreement stated that he wanted a real-world experiment. You actually look into the court case, you'll read here, the contest. This is Garcia. I decided to hold a $5,000 contest to challenge to anybody that could confirm in 2 scientific, repeatable, and verifiable experiments the supposed curvature of the Earth in the rate and manner cited by the accepted formula for determining such declination. We're down here. William Thompson applied to the contest but was never able to produce not even one real-world verifiable scientific experiment which could or would confirm the rate of curvature as decided upon the mathematicians and scientists themselves should the Earth be 24,901 miles in spherical circumference. We don't want your pretty little drawings. We don't want your silly math equations. We don't want your CGI or your computer programs. We want real-world, terrestrial, observable, demonstrable, repeatable experiments to prove the curvature of the Earth, but no one's ever going to give us that. Garcia went hard in this court case. He even brought some straight-up facts that the Earth is a level plane. The canal is 100 miles long without any locks, so the water within is an uninterrupted continuation of the Mediterranean Sea to the Red Sea. When it was constructed, guess what? The Earth's curvature was not taken into account. He also cited the longest bridge built in China, built over 4 years by 10,000 workers at the cost of $8.5 billion, a startling 164,800 meters in length, like the canals and railroads mentioned above, did not take into account the rate of curvature as cited by Robotham in the formula cited above. And they'll say that 8 inches per mile squared isn't a good way to measure the curvature of the Earth. It's off by a couple hundred feet compared to all of the other ones, up to 1,000 miles. We're only talking about 100 miles or so here, guys. Time to throw on our tinfoil hats and expose that it's just a dogmatic religious belief to believe that the Earth is spinning on its axis or orbiting around the sun. We got a lot to go through. You're going to have to pause and read this quote of Einstein admitting that we can't make it perceptible in optical experiments, as well as this quote of him saying that we can't make it perceptible in terrestrial experiments, meaning on the surface of the Earth. Getting kind of freaked out, man. It's like every physicist that's actually intellectually honest is admitting that we can't make it perceptible that we're moving around the sun. Let me guess. The heliosexuals lied to you and said that the Michelson-Morley experiment was only to pick up the luminiferous ether and not the orbit around the sun? They lied. Look at the math that they did in the American journal that they published the results in. V, velocity of the Earth in its orbit. Here they talk about if they were to turn the apparatus around 90 degrees, it would be going in the opposite direction, meaning it wouldn't be going with the Earth's motion around the sun anymore, it'd be going against it. We should see a fringe shift in both directions, but we didn't. Here's them talking about what the fringe shift would be with the axial rotation, and then read this line here. Considering the motion of the Earth in its orbit only, this displacement should have been this equation here. The distance d was about 11 meters, or 2 times 10 to the 7th power wavelengths of the yellow light. Hence, the displacement to be expected was 0.4 fringe. The actual displacement was certainly less than 20th part of this, and probably less than 40th part. Some good information at the bottom of the page here. It is obvious from what has gone before that it would be hopeless to attempt to solve the question of the motion of the solar system by observations of optical phenomena at the surface of the Earth. Was that clear enough? Or do you need to hear it from somebody else? Let's hear it from somebody else.
Michelson-Morley experiment, they created 2 light paths of equal length, aimed at right angles to each other, both with downstream mirrors that reflected the light to a receiver. They placed the light paths on a turntable so that they can aim the paths in any direction with respect to the movement of the Earth. They reasoned that if they could aim one of the light paths in the direction of Earth's motion, then the other light path would be at right angles to the direction of Earth's motion, and they should see a difference in the time required for light to travel along the 2 paths. It all made a lot of sense, and they were hoping to compute the speed of the Earth through space with the results of their experiment. Well, they were shocked by the answer. It took exactly the same amount of time for light to travel along both paths, regardless of the direction in which they were in at the turntable. They tried the experiment in the spring, the fall, the summer, the winter, during the day, at night. No matter when they performed the experiment, they never saw a difference in the time required for light to travel along the 2 paths. And yes, their apparatus was sensitive enough to detect a difference if one really existed.
This entire book of Stephen Hawking quoting Einstein is talking about a stubbornly persistent illusion of us being a geocentric Earth and the sky spinning around us, and that it's stubbornly persistent, that we can't prove any motion around the sun. Also, real quick, Aries' failure proved that the sky is moving and not the Earth. Check that out as well. Okay, guys, so I've gotten a lot of feedback from my last video that I just posted of Albert Einstein himself and plenty of other physicists saying that we can't make the Earth's motion detectable through terrestrial or optical experiments. I'm sure you guys have heard this one. But what about Foucault's pendulum, Caleb? You can figure out your specific latitude that you're on just by putting one of these down and seeing how much it precesses. Just in case you didn't see the previous video, here's the 2 quotes. Pause and read if needed. Now, before we go any further, I'd recommend you guys get familiar with this guy right here, Ernst Mach, and get familiar specifically with his Machian principle, or Mach's principle. Here is the original letter from Albert Einstein to Ernst Mach in 1913 talking about Mach's principle and its relation to our Earth. Here's how it reads after you translate it. If one accelerates a heavy shell of matter, then a mass enclosed by the shell experiences an accelerative force. If one rotates the shell, the firmament, relative to the fixed stars about an axis going through its center, a Coriolis force arises in the interior of that shell. That is, the plane of the Foucault pendulum is dragged around. So what is essentially happening is there is a translation of motion down to the earth, whether you want to say if that's through the ether or the electrostatics or the electromagnetism in the air. I'm not quite sure which one's going on, but it's definitely going on. So no, this does not prove in any way, shape, or form that the earth is spinning on its axis. What do you say we finish this one off with the Tesla quote? Today's scientists have substituted mathematics for experiments, and they wander off through equation after equation and eventually build a structure which has no relation to reality. Okay, math is not a good way to prove the earth is evolved. Maybe terrestrial, observable, demonstrable experiments would be a little better. Can me and you talk about bendy space-time, or more formally known as gravity? You may have heard other flat earthers say, no, gravity doesn't exist, it's a theory, it's buoyancy and density, but it's actually more than that. Buoyancy, density, and electrostatics, in my opinion. If you didn't know, there's a measurable amount of electrostatics in the air. This Richard Feynman lecture really puts it into perspective. And if you really want to check it out, I linked it in my Telegram, link tree in my bio. Here's the article though, if you want to read it real quick. As one goes upward from the surface of the ground, the electric potential increases about 100 volts per meter. Here's a graphic to kind of give you an idea of how this would look. So why am I talking about this? As you go up, you become more positively charged, so you will seek equilibrium with the negative, being the ground. So that's why when you hear other heliosexuals saying, why aren't we flying away if gravity isn't real? It's because you're denser than the atmosphere that encompasses you, the nitrogen, oxygen, and other gases, as well as the electrostatic force is basically sticking you to the ground. But don't blindly believe me. Listen to Walter Lewin, an MIT professor, giving a lecture literally explaining this. Let's listen to it and talk about it.
And not part of 802, so I'll leave that alone for now. So what holds our world together? Well, on the nuclear scale, 10 to the minus 12 centimeters, very important are the nuclear forces. On an atomic scale, up to thousands of kilometers, it's really electric forces that hold our world together. But on a much larger scale, planets and stars and the galaxy, it is gravity that holds our world together.
If you were listening closely, he said, from the atomic level up to thousands of kilometers, that is what's holding our world together, is electrostatics, not gravity. And gravity only comes into play on the planetary force, and there's problems with certain planets with the gravity, and then you have to invoke dark matter and dark energy, which is supposed to make up 95% of the universe, to actually make any of that work. So it's kind of a reification fallacy, if you ask me. I have a little bit more I need to go over, but seriously, read this quote by Isaac Newton himself talking about gravity and mass attracting mass. This is a drone with 0 moving parts. It uses ionic propulsion or electrostatics to fly. Got to add this earlier in the video, but if you're curious why the downward vector is decided, why things choose to fall down, not sideways and up, it's because of the downward pour of the electrostatics in the atmosphere to the ground that's acting as a negative. There's an article admitting that dark matter and dark energy supposedly make up 95% of the current cosmological view of the universe. Just a side note, dark matter adds up to 666 in gematria. Space and time are human constructs. They can't be bent or explain what's going on in the universe. The propaganda that the media and TikTok is pushing on the For You page is at an all-time high. We go essentially forever without shooting down a UFO, and now we've shot down 3 in 3 days. It's like we're being distracted from something. You gotta think, if these UFOs can move omnidirectionally at speeds unfathomable, do you think that we could hit them with a missile? Seriously? A lot of people are curious on my opinion on the high altitude balloon that supposedly came over from China. This will sum it up really quick for you. If space satellites were really orbiting us, falling around us, thousands of them, we would never use a high altitude balloon with a satellite attached to it for anything. We would just use satellites. Here's a launch of a satellite. Here's a bunch of pictures of satellites that have crashed down to the ground with balloons attached to them. Satellites are satelloons, okay? This is quite literally admitted on NASA.gov through Project Echo. A satelloon takes to the sky. July 30th, 2010. Google's AI can keep loon balloons flying for over 300 days in a row, and look what it's attached to the balloon.
World are still unconnected. In big towns and cities, providing connectivity with cell towers is economical, as there are lots of people there wanting to connect. But the further away from these towns and cities you go, the fewer people there are, until eventually connectivity just stops. To bring the internet to people in these areas, we need to look up, way up, into the stratosphere. From here, we can provide connectivity across much larger areas, bringing the benefits of the internet to more people. So how do we get there? With balloons. Really big balloons. Beginning their journey from one of our custom-built balloon launchers, our balloons are filled with lighter-than-air gas and released up into the skies. Rising 20 kilometers into the stratosphere, balloon balloons float twice as high as airplanes, well above weather and wildlife. To get to where they need to go, balloon balloons sail the winds by moving up or down.
And I know what you're thinking. Well, then, if these are all just distractions, what are we being distracted from? In my opinion, could be this. But what do I know? I'm just a guy on TikTok, right? If I could force you to understand that you're being lied to about the ISS in space, trust me, I would. All that I can do is show you the truth. Look at this microphone. Supposed to be a physical object that we definitely shouldn't be seeing through, right? But if you look really closely, you can see the outline of this guy's hand through the microphone. Something I like to call augmented reality. So to try to make this as obvious as I can, I put this video together for you guys. This is augmented reality. You can interact with objects that aren't actually there through contact lenses and glasses and things like that. Here's a perfect example. Not good. Not good. These guys are on a different layer than the background, using a green screen. That's why they're the only ones being affected and nothing in the background. This guy just magically pops into scene. Wow, I'm supposed to believe this is real. This guy's augmented glasses or lenses obviously aren't working very well. He must be new to this. He thinks he's being handed the hat that isn't actually there, but yeah, didn't work out. Oh, we're in a zero-G environment, but we're using harnesses? Wait. Oh, no, that doesn't seem very authentic. Did this guy just fly into the background on a harness and no one's gonna say anything? Okay, well, I will. And there's more, believe it or not. There's way more than this.
Will not work in a weightless environment. You know, the cup that we're all used to drinking. Wait, I have a cup right here. Oh, this, yeah, a standard cup like this does not work in a weightless environment. It requires gravity.
Makes sense. Oh, what? Uh-oh. That doesn't... Huh, interesting. This one is the best, though. Watch this. You're supposed to believe this guy's floating up because of the weight of the... Yeah, watch this. They attach it to something and somebody pulls him up. Pretty... I can't force you down the same path as me of understanding these things. Again, all I can do is show you the anomalies and kind of the weird stuff that's going on that might suggest these people aren't being very truthful. No, I often wonder if they would be posing like this if they were telling the truth. Fantasy land for children, fantasy land for adults. All I'm saying, look into it. Okay, seriously, you might be surprised when you look into the globe, then you look into True Earth and everything. You might be surprised what you figure out. Let me just go out on a whim here and wildly guess that you've probably been shown this picture before and told that this displays the curvature of the Earth. This photo from Lake Pontchartrain, the power lines, does not demonstrate the curvature of the Earth as much as these little Legos demonstrate the curvature of this table. I know what you're thinking. How, dude? How does this not demonstrate the curvature of the Earth? So let's just make it really clear, just in case children are watching. Modern science says the human eye can see 3 miles into the distance from 6 feet off the ground. And due to the Earth's curvature, we can witness a boat disappear over the horizon at that distance. So they're saying this is physical obstruction, unlike what the flat earthers are saying that this is an apparent horizon, an optical illusion. Us flat earthers, we're saying the opposite. We're saying this isn't physical obstruction. Look, you just zoom in and you can pull boats, mountains, buildings, all back into frame. So what I'm getting at here is that this doesn't happen every single day. And it should, if it were the actual geometric horizon of the curvature of the Earth obstructing and showing these power lines going down, us not seeing the bottom of them, it should happen like this every single day. But this was just a random day with great atmospheric conditions to make a mirage, to make it look like it's the curvature of the Earth. Don't believe me?
I am dangerously on 55 and I-10 junction in New Orleans over Lake Pontchartrain. These are the utility poles that run 18 miles across the lake. And I just wanted to show you
this picture should make things pretty clear. This is what we should expect from the horizon, and this is what we see. This is why we have so many flat earthers. We're just simply seeing way, way, way too far. So all they did was go to a low observer height, get the right atmospheric conditions, and call it curvature of the Earth. Hope that explains things for you. Just in case somebody has forgotten, this was the first image placed into the background of the first iPhone ever made. So everybody, consequently, that charged their iPhone and turned it on was subliminally programmed to think that this is what the Earth looks like. A lot of people probably turned on their phone thinking that this was a photo from a satellite or something, or like a space mission or something, when today I'm going to show you a NASA.gov article explaining how'd we get the blue marble photo. All I searched was Brian Simmons NASA data. Here you see him called Mr. Blue Marble. He was a data visualizer and designer. Open up said link, again, NASA.gov, and conversations with Goddard, talking about him. This is the important section down here, though. Get to said important section, and it says, the hard part was creating a flat map of the Earth's surface with 4 months of satellite data. Then we wrapped the flat map around a ball. Honestly, I don't really think I need to say anything else. So go ahead and share this with somebody that you've been debating the shape of the Earth with, and the only evidence that they have is the images that NASA's producing. Obviously, these aren't very reliable. Can me and you talk about the southern star trails that everybody's under the impression proves we're on an oblate spheroid? The heliosexuals try to make this so confusing. They say, well, if the Earth is flat, how come the stars north of the equator spin clockwise, and how come the stars south of the equator spin counterclockwise? When, if you actually do a little bit of research, you'd realize every single star in the sky moves east to west. It's just dependent on perspective which way they turn. So when you're facing south, it'll look like they're going counterclockwise, and then you face north and it looks like they're going clockwise, just due to perspective. Let me explain. Really weird how easy it was to find this graphic that perfectly explains star trails at the equator, and how it's just due to perspective. Depending on the direction you're aiming your camera or your person, you'll get all these different star trail patterns. Look, just due to perspective, you can make them go clockwise and counterclockwise. They admit it. Weird. Found this video on YouTube showing all of the stars at the equator going the exact same direction. And I'm currently reading your mind, and I know what you're thinking. Well, what about the pictures in the time lapses where it seems like there's another southern pole star? Wouldn't that suggest that we're on a ball, right? No, this is how perspective works. So, say this is at the equator, you go more south, and you're gonna get a star trail that at the bottom of the firmament going around, looking like there's another southern pole star, but there's not. Again, this is just due to perspective. So when you're seeing these star trails do this, you're just seeing the bottom of the firmament. Weird. found this article pretty quickly explaining that all of the stars move east to west, and it's just due to perspective again that you would see them go another direction. The sun, moon, and stars all appear to rise east and set in the west. Interesting. And then it goes on to say that's because of the axial rotation of the Earth, but we just think the stars are moving. We don't think we're spinning. So we think that all the stars are moving relative over a stationary plane. We don't think that we're spinning 1,000 miles per hour when we can't terrestrially detect that. Weird. It goes on. And later in this article, to further explain this, facing north, stars rotate counterclockwise. Facing south, stars rotate clockwise. It's all out there. It's not that difficult. During debates, I hear this a lot, and when people are questioning the shape of the Earth, so make sure you save this video, check my link tree in my bio for more info, and share this with your favorite heliosexual that you're trying to wake up to the truth.